So we were just walking through the graves, and buried beneath the leaves, because, you know, early springtime in Michigan, came across this jaw, this raccoon jaw. I don't know if I should hold it in my bare hands, but, you know, that's what hand sanitizer's for. Pretty awesome find here. Welcome back to Morbid, Michigan. We are exploring Oak Hill Cemetery today, located in Pontiac, Michigan at 216 University Drive. This is a very historical cemetery. There's secrets, mysteries, perhaps even hidden spirits. This cemetery has witnessed generations pass through its gates, from the architecture to the very ground that we stand on. This place is steeped in history. Oak Hill joined the National Register of Historic Places in 1989, and you can find more information about Oak Hill on the National Archives website. So according to the National Archives, the cemetery grounds are divided into 3 sections by University Drive and Paddock Street. Only the 2 older sections to the west or southwest of Paddock Street are recognized as historical places. As you come through these gates, you're going to be greeted by a large Gothic Revival-style mausoleum. And this mausoleum is far from the only one. There's a number of different mausoleums peppered throughout the grounds, and they really add to the historical significance of this cemetery, because as you go through, it really paints a picture of what the Victorian era was like. As we walk through Oak Hill, we're going to talk about some of the notable individuals who are laid to rest here. Each tombstone tells a unique story. So join me in unraveling the lives and legacies of those who shaped the history of Pontiac and Michigan as a whole. There are many Civil War and Revolutionary War veterans that are buried around here at Oak Hill, and one in particular that I want to point out is buried right here. His name is Joseph Tarr Copeland, and he was a general in the Civil War. So he was born in Maine, and he studied law, but in 1844 he and his family moved to St. Clair, Michigan. One thing that you should know about Copeland is that he was a busy guy. He built a sawmill out in Bay City, and then when the Civil War came around, he commanded the Wolverines of the Michigan Brigade of Cavalry until General George A. Custer took over the command in 1863. He also built a hotel, and he was a Michigan Supreme Court justice. So when Copeland got older, he moved out to Florida, and that's where he died at the age of 80. Now, he and his wife were originally buried out in Florida, but their family moved them back here to Pontiac, and that is where they are laid to rest now. Next, we're visiting the grave of former Congressman Augustus Carpenter Baldwin. He was originally from New York, but he ended up practicing law in Milford, Michigan. And on Find a Grave, the picture does not do it justice. You can see the majesty of the grave. It looks like a tree. It's very beautiful. It has his wife's grave here as well. So he was a member of the Michigan State House of Representatives. He was the prosecuting attorney of Oakland County and a delegate to the Democratic National Convention. He was also elected as a Democrat to the 38th Congress. After his term, he was elected the mayor of Pontiac in 1874. And throughout his whole life, he was always big on education. He was a teacher when he was a younger man, and then he was a member of the Pontiac School Board until eventually, as he got older, he retired from public service completely. Another interesting fact about Baldwin is that he was a member of the board of the Pontiac State Hospital, also sometimes called the Eastern Michigan Asylum, which Morbid, Michigan might have to make a trip out there sometime because it sounds pretty interesting. But he died when he was 85 years old. In 1908, a small tract of the northwestern corner of Oak Hill was dedicated to patients who died at the Eastern Michigan Asylum. So now this part of the cemetery has officially been incorporated into Oak Hill, but it is not part of the cemetery that is historically recognized. It's located by University Drive and Paddock Street. You can see here, this is the other side of the memorial stone. They have the names of all these different patients who died. It begins in 1880 and ends in 1962, so they're in chronological order, and each name has a number beside it, and the way that it's structured out here is they're all numbered rather than names on each of the headstones. Oak Hill Cemetery has one of Michigan's most extensive collections of funerary art and architecture, including this Gothic memorial chapel which dates back to 1898. What we're looking at is the Buckland Memorial Chapel, which is made of sandstone and in an Old English style. You can see there's a large number of old hardwood and pine trees all over here, hence the name Oak Hill Cemetery. There's oak trees, and the terrain is very uneven. It's a lot of hills. There's a lot of hills in general here in Pontiac. So among the different types of tombstones, there are many in the obelisk style, as you can see. Those are from the 1850s to the 1890s. And the thing is, because so many of these are old, a lot of the inscriptions are faded, so it's hard to read what they say. You'll also see many thin slab headstones. They're between 2 to 4 feet tall, and they may either have flat or rounded tops. Some have symbols engraved above the inscriptions, while others are plain. These headstones were common from the 1820s through the 1880s. The graves of many war veterans are marked with these short slabbed markers with very simple inscriptions on them. Veterans, there are many. There are at least 6 Revolutionary War veterans and around 27 Civil War veterans that are buried here. But sadly, vandalism is something of a problem. In 2017, Fox 2 reported $20,000 worth of vandalism done, all on one March night in one 1800s mausoleum. Both Thomas and Jane Wallace are laid to rest there. I found this picture from before that in 2014, which might indicate this particular mausoleum may have been even longer the target of vandals. The picture was submitted by WireGirl12 on Find a Grave with the caption, "Crypt is being used as a shed, apparently." According to the Midland Daily News, vandals went after the Buckland Chapel in 2000. They stole 7 of its arched cathedral-style antique windows. Fortunately, the windows were recovered after someone tried to pawn them. But here's another example of vandalism. This video was uploaded to YouTube by Sleeping Bear in 2018. But it gets even darker. There have even been accusations of grave robbery. These acts of vandalism raise many questions. One volunteer says that it's the city that's to blame for the cemetery falling into disrepair, saying that the city has turned its back on Oak Hill and rerouted the funds. Whether or not that's true, I can't say, but back in the 1980s, when it was first recognized as a historical artifact, the registration form said that the cemetery had very little vandalism and that the city did a great job in the upkeep of the cemetery. But there are many volunteers that have worked really hard to take good care of the cemetery and try to return it to its former glory. And that includes people in Oakland County who have been sentenced to community service for misdemeanors. So, they say, take nothing but pictures, leave nothing but footprints. That does apply in nature, but I think it should apply in cemeteries as well. There's nothing like a stroll through the cemetery. It's a beautiful place to walk. You can visit these people, make sure that they're not forgotten. But, don't litter, don't break things, and just do your best to try to take care of it. Thank you for joining me on this adventure. If you enjoyed this dive into history, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, have a grave day.